Your guide to the truth. TheNewAmericanMedia.com.
Yeah.
Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way Galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, California, Los Angeles to be specific. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Agree to Disagree here on the TNAM Radio Network here at the NewAmericanMedia.com. My name is Brian Engelman. I am your host, as I have been for the past 5 years, and I want to thank each and every one of you for checking out all of our stuff. Places you can quickly find it would be the homepage of thenewamericanmedia.com. Subscribe on YouTube, youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia. On Twitter, we're at American_media_. You know what also is getting really good? Find us on Instagram. Man, we're posting some great stuff over there. And you can scroll backward through the catalog. Really good memes. Really good stuff. I think you're going to like it. TheNewAmericanMedia.com on Instagram. Facebook, we got our Agree to Disagree group if you want to do a search. All that jazz. Connect with us. Yeah, and we're learning Periscope too. We're trying that one out, seeing what there is to offer. So get connected with us and also get connected with our guest, Blake the Eccentric Walley. Blake is a man who has embodied the living the dream concept. He has decided to just say, you know what, the way I'm living, I'm going to change quite a few significant things about that. And Blake is now on the road, unencumbered, living the dream. He's wild and free, and he's on Twitter at Eccentric99. Probably in about a week or so, he's going to really get into the swing of things and start moving around the country following following all of these candidates and the madness that is the 2016 election. Currently, Blake has gone off the grid himself, and he is connected with another individual who's off the grid, and they're working on some stuff. So, Blake, welcome back to the program, sir. I think it's been a long, hard week of work since we last spoke. Tell us about your experience so far.
Certainly has, yes. I am over at Freedom Ranch, but it feels more like a work camp. No, it's been.
Did you get your wrist?
Do
you have like a forearm tattoo? Did you get a number? Is it getting really bad over there?
It could be. I'm not sure. We'll see.
Because I heard in Donald Trump's America, it's like Nazis all over again. Everything's Nazis.
No, I don't know how to tie that in there.
You're in a work camp. That's what. Anyway, sorry.
Okay, guys.
No, not that that's a funny subject. But anyway, I digress. No, but you know what? Being off the grid and homesteading, it is hard freaking work. There's a reason why we wanted to get past that way of life. It is nonstop work. Being a rancher, being a farmer, that stuff is just 24/7. It never ends. You're always dealing with something. A lot of us think of it as this wonderful dream, but it is a ton of hard work. What kind of stuff has been keeping you busy for the past couple weeks since you got out there? What have you been learning about either your particular situation with what you've been working on, or your off-the-grid living experience in general?
I'd say working on mostly the fencing. There's a couple different ones. There's one for the the barbed wire that goes around the entire property, and then there's working on this bird run where they're going to house chickens and turkeys. And yeah, there's a lot of fencing that goes in. There's regular fencing, and there's chicken wire, and then there's digging trenches and getting poles set up and getting them leveled and digging out all this tough. The soil is not a lot of fun to work with out here in Arizona. It's very rocky, so it's been interesting. And there's a guy working on the backhoe digging a big hole for the house where the Earthship is going to be put up. This is at Adam Kokesh's little Freedom Ranch here. So he just basically bought this big plot of land, I think like 10 or 11 acres. And gonna build an Earthship, but it's just an enormous amount of work because it's just clearing all this land and buying a bunch of tires. He needs like 2,000 used, car tires, truck tires. But I guess that's for the insulation. Brian would know. You'd know about the Earthship stuff. I'm still kind of learning about this stuff, but they're keeping us very busy here. It's been good. There's some nice people here. It was a great stop. But yeah, it's work. I mean, Adam is just a machine, just from sunrise to sunset. He's just constantly working. So it's yeah, it's been interesting. That's where I'll leave it for this. It was a tough week, and I did a lot of shoveling today, and yeah, I'm definitely feeling it. And so hopefully I'll feel a little bit better in the morning and get ready, get back to work.
Yeah, Blake's like, I'm selling my place and I'm going out on the road, man. I'm tired of working for the man. And then
I'm working for
some other man.
Adam.
Yeah.
Yep.
At least the other one used to exchange compensation. This one's just company. No, but yeah. What Blake was referring to was the Earth ship and the battered ram. The battered Earth tires. Basically, you take a steel belted radial. You grab a tire and you shovel it full of dirt, and then you sledgehammer it until these bricks, they just become so dense, about 350 pounds a piece. That's how much mass you're slamming into those with your sledgehammer. And as that becomes, you dig down on your property, and that becomes the base of your home. That becomes the solid foundation. Essentially, it's the backbone. It's the structure, the exoskeleton of this thing. And it's using reclaimed materials, so as far as buying tires or having them all donated or going to the, there's so many of these things wasted on the planet. But anyway, yeah, it's off the grid, self-sustainable, growing your own food, all that jazz, solar panels. There's no need for heating or cooling. It stays like 75 to 85, like 100% of the year, 65 to 75. 90.
It's Arizona, but
it's
it's high altitude, so it's not brutally hot or anything. But yeah, it drops down a lot at night.
Is there anything you would say you miss about city living? Anything about the old Blake Walley experience that you kind of say, oh man, I kind of miss that? Or are there some things that you go, man, I really like this component? Like now that you've been in your fifth wheel for a few weeks now.
No, just like a little over 10 days, probably 9 days. Yeah.
Yeah. Week and a half.
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean it's good. It's cool. I mean it's hard to say. It was nice to be living in the city and secure, and I liked my condo, and it was clean, not where I'm out here working outside and just dirty. And yeah, the hot shower. I guess I could take a nice hot shower in the fifth wheel. The fifth wheel's pretty nice. I mean this to me was like. Yeah, it's 2016. I want to go all in. I want to try to, do something more. I think this is too important. So I want to be involved more, but not this little stop here. But maybe when I get out of here, this is a good learning experience. And then after that, when I can get a little bit more time to hang out and kind of focus more on creating media. Yeah, that'll be good too. That'll be a new phase, and then I'm going to be up in Minnesota for probably a couple of months with the family and all that. So that'll give me a good chance to kind of settle in and find a routine. So I'm looking forward to getting more involved in the media, because that's kind of what I wanted to do, was cover the election, but with some of the problems of getting all the RV in the truck and everything ready, it just wasn't able to take the route that I initially wanted. But I do hope to end up at the conventions in Philly and Cleveland this year, and see how this is going to be a historic year. So I definitely want to be as involved as I can.
Absolutely. Well, what's going on today? This is kind of a little more late breaking. A couple hours ago, Donald Trump rally in Chicago. Well, here, let's just play. This is at the Donald Trump rally. If you can, yeah, I'm trying to turn that up.
Mr. Trump just arrived in Chicago, and after meeting with law enforcement, has determined that for the safety of all the tens of thousands of people that have gathered in and around the arena, tonight's rally will be postponed until another date. Thank you very much for your attendance, and please go in peace.
So basically, there were a ton of people that showed up to disrupt this event. And some, First Amendment, yeah, the freedom of protest. You don't have a right to mess with somebody's day. I get so angry when I see whatever group under whatever circumstance blocking the road, disrupting, destroying somebody's event. That's not what this country stands for. I don't like that at all, Blake. I know you haven't been following it too closely, but I can.
Oh, I've been to a couple of Trump rallies, and they're huge. One was like the biggest
Huge.
event at this. Yeah, huge.
Huge.
One I couldn't, even though I had a press pass, I couldn't get into the event for one of them.
That's right. That's right. Remind us what happened there. That's right. I almost forgot.
He did two rallies at the South Point Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, which was actually just about 7 or 8 miles from my house, and I went to both of them. The first one, I only got there, I don't know, 45 minutes early or so with my press pass, and that apparently was not good enough. They said they were full, and I couldn't get in, and there was no use for me to go into the regular line because that was wrapped around the building. So, well, not the building, but it was a big line. I wasn't going to do that, and I don't even know if I would have gotten a seat. But the second time I went to the rally, I got there 2 hours early and made sure I got in. And I was told that it was the largest gathering in that particular arena that they had ever had.
Really?
Pretty
Man.
impressive. Yeah. So that's how
Yeah.
many people. There's a real big buzz going on, and I'm sure I can only imagine how many thousands of people. Even the Las Vegas one was small compared to some of the other ones that he's been polling around the country. So, I don't know exactly what kind of numbers that were there, but I'm sure it was probably
About 15,000, 20,000.
in Chicago. Yeah. I mean, that's a huge community. So.
Yeah, but this is Rahm Emanuel's Chicago. This is Barack Obama's Chicago. I really, it really feels like, the paid agitators, the ones that George Soros funded to go and just, I don't know. I don't like the direction this is headed. Let me play another clip for you. This is what some of a group of Chicago protesters are chanting repeatedly after learning the Donald Trump rally was canceled. They're saying, "We stop Trump." That's not what America is about. You don't go in and bully your way and threaten people and get violent and disrupt somebody's life and their event and what they're up to. You don't have the right to do that. You can protest, you can say your piece, but I mean, so you don't like a movie, you're going to stand up and ruin it for everybody else? You don't have that right. You don't believe in somebody's particular brand of religion, you're going to go up and grab the microphone from the pastor or the imam or the whoever it might be because you just don't like it, you're going to shut it all down? You don't have the right to do that. And apparently a lot of these are Bernie Sanders supporters. What do you make of the George Soros angle and the paid protesters? I mean, this is something we've seen before, and when it comes to false flags, Blake, this stuff, the paid provocateurs, these are things that we should all be paying attention to and understand at least the basic concepts of. What would you say is the 100 level class of what people need to know about all of that in general?
Well, Soros is like a James Bond villain, and he does a lot of bad things. He owns a lot of left-wing, or he funds a lot of like left-wing causes. I believe he donated, I heard a ridiculous number, like $33 million or something, to the Black Lives Matter when that first started during the St. Louis riots with the Michael Brown thing. So he's always there stirring up trouble in Ukraine. He's just he's a philanthropist gone bad. Yes, he's no good, and I don't know what to.
Well, then as far as false flags and agent provocateurs and the COINTELPROs and just that component.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what's going on in Chicago, and like you said, it's Obama's and Rahm Emanuel's town, so I don't know exactly what kind of stops they pulled out. So yeah. I know Bill Ayers was there, which is bad enough, and yeah, I'm still kind of working and trying to figure out what the story's all about. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more over the next couple days.
Well, basically, what I'm just trying to get at, and it's just, if you can provoke violence, you can clamp down. If you can pay people to come in and riot, and you bust people in to cause a problem, it's like the unions. Back in the day, they'd line up out there and beat up anybody that tried to go in and work at the factory. Either you're in our union, or we're going to kick the crap out of you. And that's real Al Capone street gang garbage. It's really just intimidation at its worst. And I see us descending into a place that's not going to be healthy for the country, and a lot of people are trying to blame Donald Trump for that. And to be fair, he was out there saying about protesters, like, kick his ass, and don't worry, if you get sued, I'll pay for the bill, and stuff like that. So I mean, like, these are not normal presidential quotes that we're used to seeing in America. So
I would agree with that. He's got to be a lot more careful about that. I mean, not good.
You think he's stepping in it a little bit, and some of this is deserved?
I would, I don't know what he's thinking is going to happen. Maybe just in the moment, and he's kind of in a closed room. But there's cameras on there. It's televised in front of everybody, and yeah, when you get into a spot that's a little bit more sensitive, like Chicago, yeah, then it's a possibility that that's going to incite violence or something like that, and that's not that's not good. You don't want to rile everybody up. You'd rather just have him let somebody speak or ask them what they want to say. You don't just tell the crowd. You don't throw raw meat and say, oh, somebody should. That's what we used to do is, punch people like that. Because I know I saw him say that in Vegas too. So, but yeah, Chicago's another animal.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, so I don't know.
A lot of it's on the left too. You got to think it's both sides. So you gotta blame Trump for not saying he's inciting violence, but he should not be trying to he's got to be careful about saying stuff like that. He should have learned his lesson by now before it gets out of hand. But then on the other side, you've got the left, who seems to be feeding on misinformation and going after Trump for maybe the wrong reasons, although he has some controversial things that are hard to defend and make him an easy target in certain ways. And we could probably go over the reasons for the protest, Brian, and see how accurate it is, and if it was fair, and are they getting people all worked up for the wrong reasons as well.
Yeah, we're going to see this shake out over the next couple days. I mean, it's going to give all the weekend shows something to talk about for sure. It's just interesting. I mean, it's looking like Rubio might actually get beat in Florida, and it's just weird. It seems like Kasich is just staying in so he can take the votes away from Trump, and that Rubio's in to take him away in Florida. And the establishment is absolutely freaking out, Blake. They're trying to get a brokered convention, anything to keep Donald Trump from getting the required number necessary to become the nominee. I mean, it's straight on panic mode right now. There are people just terrified of Donald Trump for reasons, terrified that he's going to win and it's going to be such a landslide, terrified that he's going to be just a monster and a tyrant when he gets in there. There are so many opinions on Trump, and I don't know. I mean, he's a lightning rod for this thing right now. So, we're just going to have to follow it and see what's going on. I mean, Bernie Sanders, he's kind of keeping it neck and neck with Hillary as close as he can, but those damn superdelegates. Ben Swan did a really good piece about that. If you guys haven't seen it, it's online. But he just talks about how about roughly 33% of all the delegates are superdelegates. And they did that so they could keep people, like grassroots people like Jimmy Carter, and I forget the other one that he referenced, from taking the nomination away. So, I mean, it's real obvious right now, more obvious, I would say, than any time in my lifetime, that the system is completely rigged. And Donald Trump has found a way to get around the rigged Republican system, and they can't believe anybody's been able to do it. Because people like Ron Paul, they've tried before, Blake, and Ron Paul failed. Why do you think Ron Paul failed?
He didn't fail. He was cheated at the last moment.
No, hold on.
Right.
He failed. He failed miserably. He was not even remotely close to becoming the nominee. He had the plurality of delegates enough to speak at the convention, and he was railroaded out of his speech, which he should have had. And there were plenty of other dirty tricks along the way, but he didn't come close to becoming the nominee. He was just shut down. And really? Remind me of that.
Yeah, it was in Florida, and he met his minimum requirement. You got to win at least 5 states,
right?
Which he did. And then before they announced the nomination, they raised the minimum requirement at the convention, like that morning, from 5 states to 8 states, and that's how they screwed him at the convention.
Okay.
And then the people that were supposed to vote, they sent them out on some kind of an errand, and they ran them around on a bus or something. They pulled an unbelievable dirty trick right at that morning, and that's what cheated Ron Paul, and even Mitt Romney's admitted that.
Okay, well, yeah, and
that's how it was. It was that close.
Well, I mean, when you
at the convention in order to do it, because if those delegates would have came unbound, then Ron Paul had a serious chance of winning, and they freaked out, so they had to change it. Oh, you won 5 states. Well, you know what? Guess what? We're changing the rules, and now it's 8 states. So sorry, you only had 5. So guess what? Now it's Mitt Romney.
I mean, but do you really think he had the necessary delegates to become the nominee? I know. Look, and you and me, when we were at the Politicon, we confronted Michael Steele about that. Former RNC chairman Michael Steele, and he was just, at least at least what he said was that he was just kind of mortified and embarrassed about how a sitting congressman was treated by the RNC. I mean, do you really think he had enough? I know there was a groundswell of Ron Paul delegates that had infiltrated every state.
That was his angle, Brian. That was his whole angle of winning, was to get those delegates unbound. And yes, because a lot of those people, they had to vote a certain way, but if on the first vote, but if they didn't meet the requirement, then it goes to the second vote, and all the delegates become unbound. They can vote for whoever they want.
So now, essentially, am I understanding this correctly? Now the Republican Party, because they're not in the front-running position like they were with Mitt Romney, they're trying to get the delegates unbound in Cleveland. The exact same thing they fought against, they're trying to do it this year. That's really what it's come down to, Blake? It's that simple?
Yeah, in a way, yeah. I guess that really is.
I haven't really put that together in the same sentence before.
Donald Trump is going to make his requirements, even if it is 8 states, and no one's going to come close, so they can't do it that way. So they have to just hope that Donald Trump doesn't have enough delegates to win on the first ballot, I guess, whatever they call it. And then if they become unbound, then maybe they can all work together at a brokered convention and put somebody else in. But the Ron Paul strategy was from the very get-go was to get the delegates. That was the whole point.
And weren't you in line? You weren't one of them, but you were a backup delegate, or how did that work in Nevada?
I was a delegate for the state.
Okay.
Wait, not the state, because there's only 25 or 29, I forget, that came from the state. So I guess I was in the county or something like that. So yeah, I was a delegate to like the second level or something. But you get fewer and fewer delegates that go to the actual convention.
Right. Yeah. It's a weird system that we have. It's meant to keep people like Trump out of there.
Kind of. That's why they've geared it now, right? Or they've geared with the Democrats, as you said, as they go against the grassroots. But that wasn't, the intention was to get like a good grassroots person and somebody passionate, and you could kind of work that system. But the establishment fights back, so it's just that constant back and forth between the establishment and the grassroots that's been going on for decades and longer than that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Hopefully, we're going to get you over to those conventions, and I'm very curious to see what dirty tricks they come up with next, because they're not really. Although I did see, what was it, Jeb Bush's brother or George Bush's? I mean, I guess what's the difference? Well,
Yeah.
somebody from the Bush clan has now infiltrated the Ted Cruz campaign, and people are starting to wonder if he's been an NWO puppet the whole time as well. That's getting interesting. Obviously, Rubio has been propped up as, the new Jeb Bush. That's not really working. So it's interesting watching the power players. And Hillary, man, I don't know. Bernie Sanders is resonating. Bernie Sanders has something going on. Hillary is not having an easy time putting him away. It's like when you're the best. Say you're the Cleveland Cavaliers. You're the best team in the Eastern Conference, maybe the third best in the league right now, behind the Spurs and the Warriors. It's like if you're playing a team like the 76ers, and they just don't have a lot of wins, they don't have experience, they don't have a lot of veterans. They're not a very good team this year. They're a horrible team. If the Cavs are having a hard time beating the 76ers, you look at the Cavs differently and go, oh, you're very beatable. Man, you should have beat those guys by 35 points in the third quarter and put all your second and third stringers in. Hillary Clinton is not putting Bernie Sanders away, and it's getting a little interesting. Do you think that she's going to have any trouble getting the nomination, Blake, or do you think it's far too down the rabbit hole to turn back around? They're all in on Hillary.
They just don't have any other choices. I mean, that's the problem. Is there's nobody. I'll use a baseball. There's nobody in the bullpen.
Right.
So they had to drag out Bernie, who should be retired. He should have just hung up his stuff and gone.
Yeah, people said that about Ron Paul too. That old man, sit down, old man. I said the same about Reagan. He's too old. And I guess.
Yeah, but I don't think Bernie really wanted it that bad. I just don't think they had anybody, and they couldn't just coronate Hillary. She wasn't an incumbent, so they had to put somebody up there. But the Democrats don't have anybody. They don't have anybody, any recognizable names under the age of 65. So they had to, they had no choice.
Yeah.
So then, Hillary's so bad, that she's having trouble putting Bernie away. And yes, Bernie is resonating with a lot of people. He's kind of the left's Ron Paul, but he's not, he's got some major flaws and some major deal breakers in my eyes. So I could not get behind him, and he's too old. But, and not a good old either. Not like a Ron Paul old or a Donald Trump old.
Wait, what's a good old and a bad old? What's the difference here?
Like Bernie looks like he is a lot older than the other people that are his age that are that are running.
He kind of looks like he walked out of Back to the Future.
Yeah, there's been a lot of good references to that Christopher Lloyd, character.
Yeah, a little bit.
Doc Brown, right?
Yeah, he's a little wacky. But anyway, no, we'll keep it. We're gonna keep following it. I watched the debate. The Republican one was civil this time, mostly civil, and it was a better product. Man, I'm not necessarily feeling like I have my candidate. I don't have my person picked out, and it's just getting a little frustrating. Obviously, I got to spend more attention on Gary Johnson, Austin Peterson, John McAfee, and the rest over on the Libertarian wing to see if I can't bring myself to back any of these candidates in the two major parties. Am I going Libertarian again? Do I go that direction? I think it's time I swing over and start taking a look. But, plenty of race left to go. A lot of delegates left to collect. I'll just say with all these things breaking out, I just want to see things remain peaceful. Unfortunately, we've seen so much violence from the Black Lives Matter movement, from the Occupy movement. We've seen protests from the Tea Party, but we haven't seen violence. That's something that the right has not come out with. And I don't know. I just don't understand going into somebody's event and just yelling and causing a scene and fighting when I'm asked to leave and removed. I just don't get it. I don't understand it for the life of me, but anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. It has a few things, and like I said, you got Trump drumming up people, and then you got this protest groups. So they have like 6 or 7 different reasons for why they protested, and some of them are somewhat legitimate, and some are not. And then they're getting people riled up on misinformation, and I think that's where I have a problem, and that's not good either. So they got to be blame on both sides. So I don't know, Brian, if you want to go over I can give you the list of the reasons, and I'm not even 100% without double checking every single thing to see how accurate some are, and some of them aren't.
Yeah,
We can go over them real quick.
sure.
The reasons for the protest. So number one, the reason is Trump has called for the complete and total shutdown of all Muslims entering the United States. He has claimed that Islam and Muslims are hateful and terrorists and must be barred entrance until he decides otherwise. Now, I think he has called for a shutdown, but he's also kind of been careful of, mostly because we don't know who these people are. Are they vetted? Are they ISIS? Or, I don't think it's just all Muslims. I think it's just probably certain parts of the Middle East, not necessarily.
Well, once again,
again,
with that one, Blake, Ted Cruz, excuse me, Ted Cruz said something roughly along the lines of, "Now, sorry, I'm not going to do I got to work on my impressions. Now,
it's all right. Sounds good.
It's a little bit of George Bush in there. I'm going to start working on it. But he said something along the lines of, I want to call for a temporary ban on anybody traveling to our country from a region where significant ISIS control has developed. Any area of the globe where there is a footprint, there is a contingent of ISIS members or training camps, etc., that region or surrounding that, we're going to not let people in because we need it. He said people, and it wasn't just no Muslims. Ted Cruz said it correctly. You got to be careful. If there's Trojan horses mixed in with these air quote refugees, Lord Almighty, don't you dare let people in. Let them into your own house, as long as your house isn't down the street. It's just not smart. If you got the wolves trying to come in and get the hens, you just don't let it happen. So Trump said it poorly. Cruz said it correctly. It is a good policy, but because Trump is leading, the people are remembering how Trump said it. I, Donald J. Trump, call for an immediate, we know the rest. So
right. So, I think that's a bit inaccurate and unfair. I think he's using specific regions, yes, in the hot zones in the Middle East, and not just all Muslims, like worldwide. So I don't think that, and he's not saying that they're all hateful and they're all terrorists. That's not true. You're just getting people worked up over stuff. The second one's along the same lines. Trump has generalized the entire Mexican immigrant community as criminals and rapists. And he calls for the mass deportation of 11 million adults and children alike, regardless of how long they have lived in the United States. And he also calls for the building of a giant wall to separate us from our longtime allies in Mexico. Now, the first part I definitely don't agree with. He's generalized the entire Mexican immigrant community as criminals and rapists. Kind of an off-the-cuff remark, and it was insensitive. And he was talking about some of the people that were coming over.
They're not sending us their best people, everybody. Right. They're not sending us their best. We're getting the criminals, we're getting the rapists, and some are probably good people too. But we can't have that. You just go, man, goodness. I get it. You're almost there. If you could re-articulate, get a do-over. Think a few things. Before you're going to say something like that, just maybe go through a few drafts, a few versions, a little bit of editing and just checking. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, there's been some really bad people coming over the border, and they're not really doing anything to stop the invasion. So, yes, it was... Yeah, exactly. He needs a do-over on that comment, but that's not entirely fair. He's not calling the entire Mexican immigrant community criminals and rapists.
Yeah, I did not take it that way at all. That's really disingenuous. You gotta work really hard to convince yourself that that's the truth behind that one. It's ridiculous.
Now the other two, he's called for the mass deportation of 11. I'm not exactly sure what his plan is. I don't entirely like that idea either. It does sound kind of bad. It's hard to defend that. And of course, we've kind of had this issue before with the wall. I'm not a really big fan of the wall idea either. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, again, it's something there's maybe legitimate reasons to there's criticize, and then there's something that they're taking out of context and getting people fired up to take them to rallies, and they're drummed up on misinformation, and that's not cool either.
Right.
So next, Trump has advocated for war crimes such as torture, interrogation, mass murder as a warning, murder of civilian families, indiscriminatory bombing of countries. Yeah, I mean, there's he did say the stuff about the torturing. I can't defend that.
No, and he's talking about killing the I mean, you're getting into some real gangster stuff right there. You're getting into the Chris Christie, New York. You're talking the Brooklyn kind of way of doing things. Like The Godfather. You're getting into eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. What was that line from The Untouchables? They send one of ours to the hospital, we send one of theirs to the morgue.
That was a good Sean Connery.
I'm working on it. But, I mean, it's...
Impromptu.
But when you're in war, things get horrible. That's why you should avoid war. But if you ever go to war, you go in, you go everything you have, and you get out. You don't occupy for 15 years and just turn it into this Orwellian nonstop war. But yeah, I mean, the stuff Trump has called for, pretty not allowed. Kind of Hitler stuff, where it's just,
it's mafia stuff, but you can't do that on the international level, like he's suggesting. Even though we basically have been doing stuff like this under the books, off the books.
Oh, the rendition in Northern Africa and all
for a long time. Yeah, he just came out and said it, but you can't do that.
Exactly. What else?
Trump has refused to disavow and condemn the white supremacist hate groups such as the KKK that support and work for his campaign.
Wrong.
That's totally wrong.
Garbage.
Yeah, I guess David Duke told his supporters.
But it was weird. Weird. He would not really answer the question. Well, I don't know, David Duke. Now it's more Mr. Garrison. But anyway, that was a weird moment. He walked it back the next day. So I completely disavow. Okay, fine. But that moment, in the moment, why wouldn't he say that? Why did he? Well, I'm not going to get into it. I don't know him all that well. Like, are you kidding me? What is wrong with this guy? I mean, that was a weird moment, at least. You'll give me that.
Yeah, I figured he should have known who David Duke was, but
it's impossible that he didn't know who he was, is what I'm thinking. Impossible. So
it's hard to say. Yeah, he should have condemned that right away, but I don't think that means that he's endorsing them in any way either, and that I don't think any people in the KKK work for his campaign. Who? At least if you're going to say that, give a name, but you don't drum up people. Hey, we're going to go protest Trump, and because he's got KKK that he supports and they work for his campaign. Like, that's not true. Yeah, of course you're going to get people that are upset for stuff when you're writing stuff like this.
And you're going to have Black Panthers that support Barack Obama. That doesn't mean that they're necessary. Well, maybe it does. But anyway, what else? What are some other critiques on Trump?
3 more. This one doesn't even make much sense. Trump has preyed on the fears of poor and middle-class whites while at the same time not offering any policies that would support them in overcoming the very serious and real challenges that they also face in America. I don't know what they're even going with that, so it's not even relevant to me. But we'll move on. Brian, unless you caught something in there.
No, I mean they're definitely talking about China's taking our jobs. Talking about Mexico, and it's a scapegoating. It's the Jews. The Jews are doing all of this. It's the Jews behind everything. Go get the Jews. And it's like, look. And by the way, for the record, I'm not one of the people that compares Trump to Hitler. I'm not one that see, but I'm trying from the other side to at least understand there are similarities. I mean, he stood up there and just said, hey, it's the Jews. It's those damn Jews. Let's go get the damn Jews. See them at a rally. Hey, rough them up a little bit. I'll pay for the medical bill. It's those damn Jews. You know who else it is? It's the Gypsies. It's also China. It's also Japan. It's also, the polls, whatever the case may be. It's find somebody from a group that's outside of your nationalistic, kingdom, and scapegoat, and then people get riled up, and then fights start happening, and then murders happen, and then things start spiraling. We've seen it before. I mean, we weren't alive to see it necessarily in that analogy, but I think that's a concern of where some people are thinking, and there's at least a bit of a similarity there. And just kind of saying it's Mexico, it's all these poor Mexicans coming in and working for lower wages. You know what? But in a way, that's kind of true with NAFTA and with all the trade. They took our jobs. They literally have taken all of the factories to the super cheap countries where they pay their people 20 cents a day, $1.35 a day, and they're shipping the products back to us to sell it for cheap at like Target or Walmart. But the people that used to work that minimum wage job don't even have a job, so they go on welfare. And it's not a good situation. And at the same time, middle America that don't have as many jobs to work at the factory, they're seeing tens of millions of people flooding through the southern border and competing with them to get the other jobs that are available in their cities. We got a problem when that's happening. And it's not a knock on anything in particular other than we're not taking care of the people that are in this country. We're not taking care of the people here. The corporations would rather make more money out of this country. They don't give a damn who's unemployed or who's not. So I think there's something to that when they say they're playing to those fears. But what do you mean playing to those fears? Yeah, let's address those because they're legitimate grievances. That's my takeaway.
Yeah, I don't think there's any. Well, there's no candidate anyway that's giving some ironclad, realistic thing that's gonna make everybody do better. So I don't really know why they're criticizing his. There's nothing to really back it up. It's just like, oh, okay, I'm just supposed to take your word on that. But anyway, we'll move on because you were talking about Hitler. Well, that's coming up. Trump's nativist, nationalist, and fascist stances parallel the most evil leaders this world has seen, such as Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini. Now, I guess you could make, I don't know exactly where I go. I mean, Trump's obviously got a big ego, but I mean, I think it's I think it's a bit unfair. We've known Trump. He's been a part of the American culture for, I don't know, over 30 years. So I think it's kind of hard to say that. I never really thought of that over the last 30 years. Like, Trump, could you imagine sitting around in like 2000 going, yeah, Trump's kind of like Hitler or Mussolini? No, but it's like all of a sudden in the last few months, since he's decided to start running, then they want to pull this kind of stuff up. So I don't know if I agree with that at all. I think that's a bit unfair. But, there's people that are concerned that he's going to be, a little bit, authoritarian, which is probably a concern to some extent. But, I'd like to think that he's not. I think he's a decent man with a decent heart. But he needs to tone it down on some things, and I don't think he's going to be in the same category with Hitler or Mussolini. But Brian, go ahead.
Nah, I got nothing, man. I mean, it's absurd, but it's also concerning. What are the warning signs? This is an extended job interview. This is such a tough job interview. That's what this is. It's like, I thought I had a few tough job interviews in my day. Nothing compared to being to being interviewed for president. But on that note, I guess with the concerns with Trump, let's not act like George Bush and Barack Obama have not been doing a lot of things on their own, extra constitutional, later ruled illegal, perhaps working against the agenda of the American people. And if the two parties that put those two puppets in charge don't like Trump, maybe I'll take a shot with Trump. Maybe I'll just roll the dice with Trump. If those people don't like, we're talking National Defense Authorization Act, the NSA spy program, We're going to talk about the Patriot Act. We're going to talk about, I mean, Blake, so much stuff has been happening under Bush and Obama. If those two puppet masters don't want him in, you know, how much worse could it really get? That's a legitimate counter to that argument. How much worse could it really get when we have all these executive orders, Obamacare, I mean, deem and pass? They did so many tricks to try to make sure Scott Brown's vote didn't count, even after Ted Kennedy died. The whole Obamacare thing. What a mess. They just ram things down our throats whether we want it or not. So if those people that are, you know, get attacked by Saudi Arabia so we go in and drop bombs in Afghanistan, makes a lot of sense. No, let's go into Iraq. That makes even more sense. But nope, Saudi Arabia, nothing to see there. Just let that one go. You know, if the Bushes and the Clintons don't want Trump, it's interesting. What's up?
Right. Oh, well, the Saudi Arabia thing, yeah, that's a whole other story. That's what the little petrodollar thing. A little unholy alliance that we have to keep running with the little racket that we have with Saudi Arabia.
And I'd say Hillary is the worst.
They get away with everything.
Yeah, I would say Hillary is the worst candidate possible, like the most entrenched and controlled candidate for the globalists. She is the number one target to avoid at all costs, putting her in the presidency. Yeah, I don't think anybody on the Republican side even comes close now that Jeb's knocked out.
No, I totally agree. I mean, you know, Rubio would be dangerous, but he's not really a threat at this point. I don't think so.
Yeah, Rubio took over the torch, but not as entrenched as the last. I mean, I guess, you know, they're puppets anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, he'd be a super puppet. Yeah.
Anyway, let's wrap through the last
few
days.
The last thing is just Trump shows a childlike temperament that would jeopardize our national security and potentially start unnecessary conflicts. So, okay, well, those are all the reasons for the protests. And again, there's several things that are red flags and that are worth calling him out for and making a fuss over. But you can't just mix in a bunch of misinformation like that. And then, you know, and you got two sides going at it for, you know, misinformation for reasons that they shouldn't be. One is a misinformation on the left, and second is from Trump. You know, if he's making comments that gets the crowd riled up too. So both crowds getting riled up, and yeah, some bad. I mean, it wasn't really that bad. I mean, it's not like there was. It could have been. They're making a kind of a big deal. It was like there were, you know, one person got punched. I don't know where this was. That might have been somewhere else.
Yeah,
they did have to shut down the rally at least, but I don't know how much actual violence took place in Chicago.
Yeah, that was a different one yesterday or the day before.
Yeah, and not like 68 or whatever.
Well, I'll tell you what. You know, come up with a better argument. Don't get violent. Come up with a better argument. I just hate when people resort to the intimidation tactics and violence. I just can't stand it. So anyway, we'll keep our eyes peeled on this, Blake. I know you've got a few things you got to run to, and we want to let you get to that. Do you have any final thoughts? I got maybe in the honor of the Daily Show, I have your moment of Zen. Once we wrap this up, this is a question. Well, I'll tell you in a second. But do you have any final thoughts on all of this in general? Putting it into a nutshell, what you think we've learned so far about the 2016 election specifically?
I don't know. I mean, it's really down to. I mean, we've narrowed the field down considerably. And so now it still looks, you know, with Trump versus Clinton, it looks like what it's going to be. And I don't know. I mean, I guess the other thing is, you know, what's going to happen with a third party, and when are they going to announce, and when are they going to jump in, and how will that affect things? You know, so I don't know exactly what else to mention about that at this point. I mean, Carson's out now since recently. Carson's out, and Kasich is still hanging on, kind of.
Yeah, Carson went ahead and endorsed Trump official. Well, wait.
Yeah.
It's the story. I think he has actually came out and endorsed him now. That's right.
Right, so that's it's a big deal. And you got Trump trying to get the GOP to rally around him. because he's the best chance to beat Hillary, and I agree with that. Not that I would mind Cruz. I don't hate Cruz or anything. He's definitely has some things that are concerning. So does Trump. But I think Trump might be what the country needs, as crazy as that may sound. We know what we're getting out of Hillary. Now, I don't really know what we're getting out of Trump, but I'm a lot more optimistic about him than I would be with some typical, usual globalist puppet or whatever.
Yeah, I think, like I said earlier, my research into the Libertarian Party is about to commence. I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to that stuff coming up soon and figure out if I can back definitely not backing Hillary, but could I back the GOP nominee, or will I go third party? Or are they going to put Mitt Romney in charge of the party? Kind of seems like they're trying to. But anyway, Blake, we'll talk again soon. Everybody make sure you follow him on Twitter. He is at Eccentric99. Blake, thank you for joining the program.
Thank you, Brian.
This is the last thing I wanted to share. This is from Ford Fisher. He's been a guest on our program before. He's been heavily covering the Lavoy Finicum shooting and the Oregon standoff situation, and actually had correspondence with Pete Santilli from prison. And we've done a few shows together in the past. But this is Ford Fisher asking Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau a question. I believe this was today at American University in Washington, D.C. I think it was pretty great. This is what's that Limp Bizkit song? Keep trolling. It's just a pretty awesome question, Blake. I wanted you to hear it. So here's the last thing on our way out the door.
To it, but also a serious element. As was just asked in the last question, we have a presidential candidate right now who says he would build a border wall with Mexico and make them pay for it. And we have a lot of Americans who earnestly say, I would leave and go to Canada if we elected Trump as president. So my question to you is, how would you deal with an influx of American immigrants to Canada? Would you open your gates to American immigrants, or would you build a wall and make America pay for it?
Every election season, there are people who swear that if the candidate they don't like gets elected, they're moving to Canada. If over the past decades that had been the case, we'd have more people in Canada than the United States right now, instead of being 1/10 your size. It becomes an easy, thing to cry out. Every year, there are Canadians who move to the United States. Every year there are Americans who move up to Canada. That's just the nature of our friendship and relationship, and to link it too much to politics is, as you point out, humorous and a trope that comes up through election seasons. But the reality is the integration of our countries, the work we do together, the engagement on so many different issues means that there will always be flows back and forth, and one must never fret or be disappointed with that at the same time.
Yeah, I thought that question was awesome. How are you going to deal with a massive influx of Americans, or will you build a border wall and make America pay for it? Freaking
great question.
Awesome question. And you could hear the audience. Everybody thought it was hilarious. Kudos to you, Ford Fisher. Man, that was great. All right, Blake, then thank you so much. Like I said, on Eccentric, on Twitter at Eccentric99. Do you have any rough itinerary that you can share with us, kind of when you're thinking about headed off to any particular location, so we can kind of ramp up and look forward to that?
It's going to be at least another week. I'll just make a quick journey through the South, and then I'll probably be heading my way up to Minnesota, where I will be spending a considerable amount of time before I go to the convention.
Yes, Blake's Magical Mystery Tour 2016. It commences. All right, man. Well, thanks for joining us on the show. We'll do this again soon. Appreciate your time.
Sounds good. All right, thanks, man.
Take care. There he goes, everybody. Blake the Eccentric Walley. Seriously, man, it's so interesting. Quit his job. Sold his home. Went on the road to cover the election. I mean, think about that. That's kind of a big deal. I mean, would you be willing to do that? Would you be willing to do that? I don't know. In a way, it's kind of terrifying, and in another way, it's very exciting. It's interesting, you know? You see violence at this Trump event. You've seen it in Baltimore. You've seen it in Ferguson. It's an election season, and there's a violent underbelly to politics. It's happened with unions. It's happened with Black Lives Matter. It's happened with Occupy. And you know what? If you want to point to some, Tea Party violence, refresh my memory. I don't recall those getting violent. And that's the worst thing that we can do, America, is head down a path where we need our way of life so badly that we're willing to hurt our neighbor who disagrees. Sorry, that's not an America that I know. That's not an America that I understand. And that's not something that I'm ever going to be comfortable with. So really, get your act together, people. Get your act together. First Amendment allows you free assembly. First Amendment allows you to think and say the things that you want, as long as you're not harming somebody. And I mean, the yelling fire in a crowded theater. There are certain actions you can take that can lead to serious injury or death. That's the can't scream fire in a loaded in a packed movie theater. If there's a trample, if there's a mad rush for the exits and somebody gets trampled, you're responsible for that trampling. And there's a point that can be made to that, but seriously. You're allowed to gather, you're allowed to say and think the things that you want, and you're allowed to talk about them publicly, and you're allowed to speak with clarity. You are not allowed to go into other people's events and mess with them. You are not allowed to block the roads. You have no right to mess with somebody else because you want to be heard that badly. I must be heard, and therefore I'm going to damage this other person to my right or my left. Sorry. You do not have that right. So stay peaceful and demand our First Amendment rights to agree to disagree. The name of this show, Agree to Disagree. You're allowed to have a difference of opinion. You're not allowed to harm somebody because you don't like their opinion. So get a grip, people. My name's Brian Engelman. Once again, thanks again to guest Blake Walley. Follow him on Twitter. He's at Eccentric99. Check out our homepage, thenewamericanmedia.com. Subscribe, youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia. Find us on Facebook. Instagram, The New American Media. So anyway, happy weekend, people. I'm Brian Engelman. I appreciate you. I love you. We'll talk again soon. Peace.
Hi, everybody. You're listening to Agree to Disagree with Brian Engelman, and this is John B. Wells reminding you that not only is Brian Engelman a cool guy, and not only is the newamericanmedia.com a very cool platform, but here's a cool idea for you, too. Are you alone? Not really. Do you like dogs? Do you like cats? You do. Of course you do. Everybody does. One or the other, maybe even both. There are a lot of dogs and cats that are at shelters right now, and if somebody doesn't take them home, they're going to wind up euthanized. That's a nice way of saying they're going to be killed, because there's simply not enough room. I guarantee it, the best dogs and the best cats, the best pets, come from shelters. There's something about dogs and cats. They know. They know where they are. You walk through one of them, and certainly at least one is going to look at you and go, I wish you'd take me home. I'm in hell. Please take me out of here. It'll be the best thing that you ever did for your soul. You'll feel good about it. And not only that, but you have a friend for life. Doesn't matter if you got money, you don't have money. Well, it doesn't make any difference to a dog or cat. All they need is the sound of your voice and maybe even the stroke of your hand, and they're fine. Maybe a little food every once in a while. The sweetest sound that those pets ever hear is your voice. Think it over and adopt a cat or a dog from a local shelter today. I'm telling you, you'll be glad you did.